Well, let's go into our last segment of the day. We've been streaming. God, I had a 3 hours and maybe 15 minutes on the other one, and we have how many minutes here? 45 minutes. Been streaming for 4 hours. But this is a speech, 1979, Fidel Castro at the UN. It's it's the equivalent for me of like when people put up a pump up song before working out or while working out or before a game or something. It's a tremendously motivational video, and as is always the case with Fidel, tremendously pertinent. Um, I mentioned this the other day, but most Fidel videos you can just put him in. He could be reincarnated saying the same thing right now, 2023, and it would still be incredibly useful. So let's listen. And it starts with a clip that's not from the speech, but it's before, where he does something pretty badass. They ask him if he has a bulletproof vest, and he opens up and shows his bare chest. But let's listen in. Let me know if the captions are readable, or if you would like me to make the video bigger or something.
Siempre está protegido con su traje. ¿Cuál traje? ¿Cuál suit? Sé que todo el mundo dice que usted tiene un chaleco a prueba de balas. No. Voy a desembarcar así en Nueva York. I will land in New York like this. Tengo un chaleco. I will land in New York like this. Tengo un chaleco moral.
That was beautiful, man. When he went to Harlem, oh my god, people went crazy when he went to Harlem. He went to go speak at a black church, and the speech that he gave was amazing. He quoted, I believe it was Tupac Amaru, um, who was asked right before being murdered if he would like to um, ask for forgiveness to go to heaven, and he asks, "Will all of you be in heaven? Will all of you colonizers be in heaven? If so, then fuck that. I don't want to go to heaven. Keep me far away from wherever the fuck you guys are." He quoted that in a black church, and everyone was like, "Ah, that was awesome." But the people in the most oppressed sectors of American society have loved Fidel, just like the people around the world, around the global South, have loved Fidel. Look at the EFF's conference for the 10th anniversary. There's a clip. Julius Malema is finishing the speech. He's elevated on the platform. Confetti's flying. Music's out. And they show the stadium. And the only flag that's there waving massively is the Cuban flag. The African people do not forget. They don't forget what the Cubans sacrificed very early on in their revolution. They're dealing with blockades, having to figure out how the fuck to get the necessaries of life. Half of the mental capital left. There was some. I think it was the University of Havana. Most of the professors of medicine, so the doctors, left. Maybe 30% that were left. In that whole context, they're trying to develop a generation of doctors, educators, doing literacy campaigns, trying to survive, and they're sending people to fight against apartheid, to fight for anti-colonial struggles in Angola, around Africa. So the African people have never forgotten that. And you see that there in the 10th anniversary Congress of the EFF. The global South loves Fidel. Today you go through the West Bank, you go through Gaza, maybe not Gaza because of the bombing, but you might still see some of the murals dedicated to Che, to Fidel. Danny mentioned earlier the connections, the deep connections of the PLO to the Cuban revolutionaries. So let's keep this going.
Señor presidente, distinguidos representantes.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to react to that at some point. Epic rap battles of history, Marx versus Ford. Yeah, I'll have that as one of the segments in Sunday to react to. By the way, if anyone's interested in sending me segments to react to for these streams, we have a whole section of the Discord dedicated to people sending in segments for us to react to. So every Patreon member gets access to our Discord. You can be a Patreon for just $1. So consider doing that. If not, feel free to email us, and we'll check out the material and see if it's something we should react to. But yeah.
Se habla con frecuencia de los derechos humanos, pero hay que hablar también de los derechos de la humanidad. ¿Por qué unos pueblos han de andar descalzos para que otros viajen en lujosos automóviles? ¿Por qué unos han de vivir 35 años para que otros vivan 70? ¿Por qué unos han de ser míseramente pobres para que otros sean exageradamente ricos? Hablo en nombre de los niños que en el mundo no tienen un pedazo de pan. Hablo en nombre de los enfermos que no tienen medicinas. Hablo en nombre de aquellos a los que se les ha negado el derecho a la vida y la dignidad humana. Unos países poseen, en fin, abundantes recursos. Otros no poseen nada. ¿Cuál es el destino de estos? Morirse de hambre. Ser eternamente pobres. ¿Para qué sirve entonces la civilización? ¿Para qué sirve la conciencia del hombre? ¿Para qué sirven las Naciones Unidas?
Oof. Oof. If only we had someone to do that today, go to the United Nations and say, why the fuck do you exist? If it's not so that in moments like this, where there's an active genocide going on, where a whole people are attempting, are about to be, are potentially going to be exterminated, why do you exist? If in moments like this, you get your palms and you sit on them and do nothing. Fidel there says it perfectly. What's your purpose? Why do you exist? If you're going to do nothing about the growing inequality, the fact that in one pole of the world, so much of the riches are accumulated in the hands of a very few amount of people, while the vast majority of humanity struggles to survive. What's the purpose of the United Nations? As I mentioned, you play Fidel in 2023, and it's as if he's speaking to us right now.
¿Para qué sirve el mundo? No se puede hablar de paz en nombre de decenas de millones de seres humanos que mueren cada año de hambre o enfermedades curables en todo el mundo. No se puede hablar de paz en nombre de 900 millones de analfabetos. La explotación de los países pobres por los países ricos debe cesar. Sé que en muchos países pobres hay también explotadores y explotados. Me dirijo a las naciones ricas para que contribuyan. Me dirijo a los países pobres para que distribuyan. Basta ya de palabras. Hacen falta hechos. Basta ya de abstracciones. Hacen falta acciones concretas. Basta ya de hablar de un nuevo orden económico internacional especulativo que nadie entiende. Hay que hablar de un orden real y objetivo que todos comprendan. No he venido aquí como profeta de la revolución. No he venido a pedir o desear que el mundo se convulsione violentamente. Hemos venido a hablar de paz y colaboración entre los pueblos. Y hemos venido a advertir que si no resolvemos pacífica y sabiamente las injusticias y desigualdades actuales, el futuro será apocalíptico. El ruido de las armas, del lenguaje amenazante, de la prepotencia en la escena internacional debe cesar. Basta ya de la ilusión de que los problemas del mundo se pueden resolver con armas nucleares. Las bombas podrán matar a los hambrientos, a los enfermos, a los ignorantes, pero no pueden matar el hambre, las enfermedades, la ignorancia. No pueden tampoco matar la justa rebeldía de los pueblos. Y en el holocausto morirán también los ricos, que son los que más tienen que perder en este mundo. Digamos adiós a las armas y consagrémonos civilizadamente a los problemas más agobiantes de nuestra era. Esa es la responsabilidad y el deber más sagrado de todos los estadistas del mundo. Esa es, además, la premisa indispensable de la supervivencia humana. Muchas gracias.
I know I'm biased here, but man, for me, in the 20th century, there's nothing. There's nothing that can match Fidel. The level of principle, the level of what we Cubans call cojones, guts. But I think our Mexican brothers and sisters call agallas. Just a tremendously impressive figure, and don't let his practice fool you. He was also a deeply theoretical man. From the start, people think that the revolution was just that when Fidel led the revolution, he was just like a nationalist, and then he got radicalized and became a communist. No. Fidel has said it explicitly, man. I've been a communist from the beginning, from before the assault on the Moncala barracks. We would do reading groups where we would read Marx, Engels, Lenin, the collected works of Lenin, where we would read Franz Mehring's biography of Marx, which I have it somewhere around here. I have it in German, the original German. So brilliant man, tremendous leader, in many ways embodied the archetype of what Che Guevara thought the new socialist man and woman would be like. And today, not only a whole island of 11 million, but countless millions of people from around the world look at him and the revolution he led as an example. Even these more moderate revolutions, or perhaps some might not be capable of being called revolutions, but leftist governments in Latin America, take Chile, the Venezuelan Revolution, um, Ecuador, Bolivia, to some extent now even Mexico and the Cuarta Transformación, the Fourth Transformation, Nicaragua, and others, Honduras, all of these countries, even Petro, Petro in Colombia, all of these countries owe so much to the one country in the hemisphere that has never let imperialism knock it down, that has withstood everything thrown at them. The 90s were hard. The caloric intake dropped by half. It was basic necessities were hard to come by. And the people preferred to live in the misery that the imperialists forced upon Cubans, which was a misery that, by the way, if Cuba had been dominated by the free market logic, it would have been a famine. But they prevented that. People were hungry, but no one was starving to death. But nonetheless, hard conditions were forced on them by the imperialist blockade, by the fall of the Soviet Union, by the fact that Cuba was left alone. And the people never gave in. They preferred to endure everything and sustain sovereignty than give up their sovereignty, give up their revolution. It's a tremendous example for humanity, and it's in the same way that I think today the Palestinian struggle represents the best of what humanity has to give. A people that, regardless of everything, they don't give up. They continue to fight for their homeland against apartheid, against oppression. Same thing with Cuba, man. Same thing with Cuba. It's tremendously impressive. But now that we have finished on a proper Fidelista note, I wanted to maybe close out, instead of with the International that we started with a classic of the Cuban Revolution. Aesthetics is and art is so incredibly important, and a lot of these songs that arise out of these revolutionary movements, some which are written before the triumph of power, some after, they end up being the soundtrack of the revolution. When I think of Chile, Victor Jara comes to mind. When I think of the Cuban Revolution, Carlos Puebla comes to mind. And then when I think of the generations that it created, I think of Silvio Rodriguez, Pablito Milanés, and a bunch of the other ones. So let's listen to Carlos Puebla, y en eso llegó Fidel, to roll out. Thank you so much to everyone who's been watching, man. We've been going on for 4 hours.